with the June 14th Woodfin Parks and Greenway Advisory Committee meeting. Do we have an approval of today's agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Excellent. Can we please approve the minutes of the May 10th, 2023 meeting?
I couldn't find them on the Teams site.
Okay.
So.
It's a video, I
couldn't
believe.
Oh, well.
We're transitioning to video on,
Did you put them
The
in?
minutes?
I thought they were on there.
I only saw February and March. But I did find this, so I was thinking maybe I needed to refresh or something my Teams, but.
They're on there. They were, okay. Gina, did you put the minutes on the?
I just can't approve it, but if anybody else has
Yeah.
read them, then feel free to approve them.
Well,
I
I'll
don't know what happens in that case.
pull them up this way.
Oh, you're gonna show them to us?
Yeah.
Or show us the video? That would be great.
Oh. It's one of those days, guys. One of those days.
It is double R.
Yeah. Did we,
Yeah.
is it
I
misspelled
corrected
here?
it, yeah.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Bring my glasses. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from May's meeting?
I approve.
Okay.
Right. This is a public forum. Do we have any public here that would like to make a statement? Doesn't appear so, so we can move on. All right. Apparently, we have a new member on the Parks Greenway Advisory Committee. Adrian,
Yeah.
I understand he's not able to join us until August, but can you share a little bit of information with us about
Yeah,
his
he
background?
had prior engagements for this month and next, but he was appointed at the last council meeting, and he is the outdoor program director and Spanish teacher at French Broad River Academy. His
Great.
name is David Clark. So we're excited to have him on board, and he'll be joining us in August.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. Okay, the next order of business is talking about subcommittees. I can't imagine there are any subcommittee reports at this point in time. And we have talked and had a great idea about reworking the subcommittees a little bit, and Adrian and I spoke about that, so we wanted to hear a little bit more from you, Adrian, on the vision, and we can flesh that out and see if it makes sense.
Okay. So previously, we had the Project Management and Park Operations Committee and the Communications and Events Committee. And the membership is shown there. some of those people just fell into those positions due to turnover. But there's not a whole lot going on with either one of those categories, and those committees kind of died down, so we were talking about restructuring, and the idea is to have two committees, one focused on volunteer group management, like we discussed at the last meeting, and the other to focus on wave management. As you know, we have the wave task force, so there's membership from this committee on that task force already. So that's Chris, Coral, and Wayne. And then that would probably transfer over the other three members into the volunteer group management committee. So that would be Gerald, Eric, and Ann. But then we have this new member, and as you know, Coral is now our new chair. And so when Walt was the chair, he didn't serve on a committee because open meetings law requires there only to be less than a majority in any given place at any given time, or it becomes an open meeting, has to be published, the public has to be able to attend. So we're trying to avoid that, so just for the smaller committees that would come back and present to this committee anyway. And so I want to open the floor to you guys on the membership, on your thoughts on the committees in general, and then a discussion around the membership.
I think Dave would be an excellent one to have on the wave management group if Coral wanted to have the same structure where the chair isn't on a committee. I think Dave would be an excellent one to slide in given his experience in the outdoor world. But
I agree.
you also have some great experience to add to the
No.
management team, so I don't want to say that's not the right fit.
No, I
Here.
agree. I'm really happy with that. The task force, I think, is going to consume enough time in addition to, serving on this council. So that works for me if it works for the.
What do you envision the wave management group with, like what topics they would?
So the task force is focused on event management and user management. And so I'd envision them being involved with that task force, coming back to this committee, but then taking on other items that maybe the task force isn't covering. Because those are strictly those two categories are what the task force is going to make recommendations on. So I don't have a good example right now, but I know they're out there.
I think it makes sense in terms of, we don't really have like events that we need to communicate around at this time. We've got the projects in motion. And I don't think that we named any subcommittees in our bylaws or anything like that. So these are essentially just ad hoc things anyway. So these are the two things that we're focusing on.
So the new membership would be, Coral would not be on a committee, and Dave would take the place of Coral in the wave task force.
So just to clarify, the wave management subcommittee means 3 members from this group are serving on the task force. There's not like a separate meeting after the meeting for the PGAC 3.
No, but the
Okay.
task force is limited time, so once
Right.
that's over, they'll focus on other things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm staying on task force.
No.
Oh, I'm coming off. Okay. I thought this was going to be different, wave management.
That's not what I had understood, because I don't, it's a little bit much to take on all of that at once, and so
Yeah.
I think we need to focus on what the task force is doing now. And
Okay.
And you are obviously welcome to engage with those
Then
people.
join,
and
yeah,
join
okay.
in and, provide recommendations or just get an update as the chair. But just to keep it clearly separate for the open meetings law, we thought 3 and 3.
Yes, that's fine.
And tell me, like the premise of the volunteer group management, what would their tasks look like?
I'm gonna ask Ann to chime in after I get finished, because she kind of gave us this thought, but at the last meeting, we talked about, we've had groups contact the town about different volunteer opportunities they can engage in, and we really don't have a clear vision of what that needs to look like. So the idea came up to contact AmeriCorps and talk to them about what they could provide, and so this task force would make recommendations on how we can manage volunteers for the town and for the parks once they come online.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else I should have added to that?
No, I mean, within that group, I could see us talking about trying to organize like a park ambassador type person. So soliciting someone that either is close by that park or an organization that's close by that park to sort of be more like monthly or weekly eyes on the park
Okay.
to report back, or to organize cleanup days, or I don't know, certain events at the park maybe, or I don't know, just different ways different groups can use their talents and interests to enhance the general public park experience.
Which would be in the close vicinity.
Right, right. So like New Life Church,
Yeah.
YMCA, garden clubs, trying to just utilize their energy and get it organized and structured.
Mhm. Well, I would be happy to serve on the volunteer group management subcommittee.
I think in the first meeting or maybe two would be around brainstorming ideas and
Sure.
groups and volunteer opportunities. So the task force is obviously meeting once a month. The volunteer group may want to get together as the three of you and decide how you want to coordinate. Because at the next meeting, you would just come give us your synopsis of what you discussed over the month.
Okay.
So that's Ann, Eric, Gerald. Wave is Dave, Chris, Wayne. And then Coral's got her fingers in all the pots. Yeah.
Okay. On to the next piece of business. Great, so I think project updates.
So Silverline Park, I gave you, well, first of all, I'm drafting an RFQ for design services for the restrooms and the pickleball area and the mobility of that section and whatever changes may need to come from that. So that's in the works. I'm still looking for a landscaping company to help with the area in front of the pavilion. I talked to him and he fell off the face. I've not heard back from him.
Interesting.
And I tried to contact him again twice. So I'm still working on that.
So, sorry to interrupt, you're looking for bids on landscaping?
That area between the pavilion and the playground.
Okay,
It serves as a stormwater swell, so we got the consultant to give us a landscaping plan, and it's just fox sedge and a couple boulders. But I'm having a hard time getting.
I have a lead. Can I send a lead your
Yes, please.
contact? Okay.
You may recall a year or so ago the conversation around the signs at Silverline Park to include the kiosk and then a wetlands sign and the train depot sign. So Equinox finally, we got back in touch on that, and these are the signs that we landed on. It was my understanding the town had reviewed these. I know that.
We did. We made edits, but I still see a typo. So I hope it's not gone to print yet.
Well, tell me what it is, but I think these are, I've fixed the typos, but tell me what it is.
Referred in the second
Yeah,
line.
it's fixed. Sorry,
It
I
is?
printed
Oh,
out the
great.
old.
Great.
Yeah, excellent.
There's also like Silverline Park wasn't hyphenated, so we made that change. And I was looking at the wetlands one. And the number 2 referenced the forebay allows sediment to drop out of the water, and I felt like that was a little bit too technical for the general public. So I asked them to reword that. But I think Eric and I looked over this, and I'm pretty sure we caught all the typos.
Great.
It's cool. Like it. Was the Craggy Mountain line, this information, was that generated from the woman that runs okay, that's great. I forget.
Well, she generated the initial version, and then I think Shannon edited it some.
Oh, that's
so
great.
This is the final version.
Can't wait to read it.
All right, moving on to Riverside Park and Taylor's Wave. So for the demolition for the old Waste Pro buildings, that house/business, the abandoned building, the wooden structure, we did find the asbestos. They're in the process of removing that asbestos, so once that's done, the demolition will take place of that building. And then we did sell the metal buildings. I don't know if you noticed, but they're being taken down now. So they'll be removed soon, so that site should be clear.
Excellent.
The permitting, we are still waiting on the consultants to finish up the erosion control plan and the safety plan for our response to the Army Corps of Engineers. They said they would be done at the end of last week, and so any day now, I'm hoping that we'll have that response ready. They also submitted the stormwater permit application to the town. We recently took over that review, stormwater review in general. And they had submitted it to the county after the town's ordinance was adopted, so they withdrew their application from the county and put it in with the town. So we're in the process of reviewing that application. And then we're having ongoing conversations with Norfolk Southern still about the construction easement. That's some slow moving, but we're staying persistent. So no real updates there other than we're staying in touch. On the funding side, we still do have the $1.13 million deficit. Staff's working with granting agencies. We had a good call with the Land and Water Conservation Fund yesterday, so we're hopeful for that, and then just identification of other funding sources. So we're hopeful that we'll close that gap. And then miscellaneous to this project, we met with DOT recently about the bridge replacement, the Craggy Bridge replacement, and that's slated to start, construction to start in May of '25. The original understanding was that it would be able to span the park without the piers affecting the park, but that's from the engineer review not the case. So there will be 2 piers that will be in the park. So we're coordinating with DOT right now on what that needs to look like and how that's going to affect construction. It's a good conversation, so I think it's going to be fine, but it's a kink that we're trying to work through now. There will be 1 pier in between the Greenway and the parking area on the Waste Pro side, and there will be another pier on the riverbank, or closer to the riverbank, so it'll span that area.
Will the old bridge be totally removed?
Wow.
And we talked at some point about that bridge involving maybe a walking path so people could use it as a viewing
Yeah, they
observation?
do have I forget the footage, a 10-foot.
There's like a pedestrian access on the bridge.
access, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
That is cool. What's the time frame on a project like that from start to finish? Multiple
Bridge.
years?
I wouldn't think it would take multiple years.
You don't
I don't
think-
know.
Yeah, I'm for the length of that one. I think that they would be done. I mean, the Pratt and Whitney one, which was a complete streets bridge too, was much longer and much higher up, and they finished that one within like a number of months.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
would say, yeah.
As someone who lives off from Riverside Drive, I just need to like mentally get
Mentally
ready for that.
They had given us the option of keeping the old bridge, but the town's not interested in the liability and maintenance of that, so they're going to remove it.
So it's going to be just north of Craggy.
Right.
Okay.
And does that make it upstream or downstream of the wave?
Still upstream.
Upstream.
It's right next to where the bridge is now. It's just slightly north.
Okay. And does that make for good wave viewing?
Yeah,
Like-
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
It'll be
I
slightly
guess,
closer to the
yeah.
wave.
So the pedestrian access would be on the downstream side of
Yes,
the
they
bridge.
did that on purpose
Okay.
because we had requested
Great.
that. And I talked to DOT today, and they're going to try to speed it up as fast as they can, but, you know, it's DOT, so they didn't make any promises.
So the park, in theory, would be finished when they are starting construction?
Yeah, and that's something we need to talk about with Equinox, obviously, or the contractor, really, on the sequencing of that, because it may be that we don't pave part of the
Right,
greenway
seems like
or
you're
the
wrecking
pave part of the
your
parking
stuff.
lot until that
Right.
construction's finished, and then, because we don't want to pave it and then tear
Right.
it up,
Exactly.
so.
And that could help with our funding thing, like phase one might be totally funded because we take some of those things out of that phase.
That's something I hadn't thought about, but yeah, I guess it could. We're actually working with, that's one of the things we discussed with the Land and Water Conservation Fund yesterday, because that's gonna affect the park, the construction area for the park and what they're funding. So we have to figure out how to map out where the bridge is going and where the park's going, so. We may have to make it two separate areas, and so I guess that could work for phase one and phase two. But I think it's, at the very least, it's gonna require a redesign from Equinox to an extent, so we're working with DOT on that as well.
So who pays for that?
DOT.
Was the DOT, were they planning all along to replace Craggy, or is it the Wave and Riverside Park that's dictating that this needs to be?
They were planning to replace it.
I think
Okay.
there was like a line in the map, like those kind of already, they knew that was coming, right? So they sort of drew
Yeah.
it in where they expected it to go.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was based on their inspection of the bridge. I think it's
Okay.
got some issues.
It's just all of a sudden this has come to the forefront. We haven't really talked much about Craggy Bridge since we were looking early on at
Well, I think
Site plans,
as
so-
construction and permitting ending and construction beginning.
It's
getting
sort of sped
closer,
them up
like,
to-
We need to talk to DOT, and then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, this is starting in 25, so.
wow.
And that's soon.
That is soon.
And where does the Waste Pro property line end? Is it like where the current bridge is now?
No, it's right past that wooden building that we're demolishing, and there's that steep drive down,
Okay.
if that makes any sense.
So, and is that on the other side of the bridge from where the park is?
It's a good ways on the other side of the bridge, really. You know where the metal building is? It's right past that, where the property line would end.
So the new bridge will like bisect the park somewhat.
Somewhat, yeah.
It'll be shade,
There you go.
free shade.
Any other questions on Riverside Park, Taylor's Wave?
No.
And then for the Greenway, they have split that project into two projects, DOT has, so it's Riverside Drive or 251 and Beaver Dam Creek. So that's official now, by DOT. The consultant's working on the hydraulic modeling paperwork, and they plan to submit that by August 10th, and then turn around and start the easement acquisition process, so they're planning to start that in November. And they're planning out for that to take 12 months. They don't know if it'll take that long or not, but they just have that in their timeline.
Beaver Dam Creek is mostly just one property owner, right? Until I guess we're letting Moe's Barbecue and Grace Gases.
Yeah.
If they get the easement on one before the other, would they? I mean, I guess it wouldn't make sense to start on that one until.
Well, the Beaver Dam Creek project is the feasibility study at this point.
Okay.
And then, so they haven't even got to design or construction or
Oh,
any
wow.
of that.
Okay.
Which is probably why they split it up.
Makes sense.
And then, we applied for the feasibility study for Riverside Drive, and we didn't get that one. But we turned around and applied for a grant for the a comprehensive bike and ped plan for the town, and it looks like we're gonna get that one.
Oh, that's great.
So we're excited about that. And that's all the updates I had.
Okay. And then Wave Task Force, there's been 2 meetings thus far. Adrian with Mark Hunt leads those meetings. And I think eventually we'll get to a point where either Chris or Dave or Wayne summarizes the findings from the meeting and reports back. But would you mind, Adrian, filling us all in on where, what we've discussed thus far and where we're at?
So we've had 2 meetings. The first one was in May, and the second one was last week. I didn't put the date. So the first meeting, there was an overview of the role of the task force, which is essentially to review these concepts around user management and event management and make recommendations to this group, who's then going to make recommendations to council or staff is, simultaneously with staff drafting a policy document that will eventually be adopted by council around the use and management of the wave. Mark had created an outline of the different topics around both of those categories and what the group might discuss, so they took some time to review that document. There was some general conversation around what the grand opening might look like for the wave, because it will probably be complete before the park even starts or while it's in construction. And Mark was saying we might want to do something around that time because people are going to be on it whether we want them there or not. No real decisions were made, just general discussion. They identified some potential policies that we would need to think about for like safety during construction and after construction, signage around the safety, policies for outfitters, use of the wave and the park. And then the homework from that meeting was to gather examples from other venues and compare them for ideas for these policies and procedures. So they did that, and one of the members sent out some examples from Bend, Oregon, and some other places, their policies. So we took those and reviewed those and came back to the second meeting and discussed what we should take from those policies to bring to Woodfin. So the topics included emergency protocols, water level information, how to find it, signage, commercial uses, outfitter uses, use of alcohol on the wave and in the park, whether or not we were going to require life jackets. So we got some good information from that. Eric and I are going to take back and kind of draft the draft of the policy. We're planning to take that document to council in October. So the next meeting, we're going to focus on the event management. That was the focus on user management. The next meeting will be event management, and hopefully by August we'll have the first draft ready for you to look over. Miss anything, Chris?
No, I like that after the first meeting we decided to kind of focus on something different each meeting, because it is just such a huge undertaking to get some of this stuff, and so siloing it off has been a good way to focus the meetings.
I'm already impressed with 2 meetings. You've accomplished a lot.
It's a good group.
It is a good group. Was other people that weren't at the first one able to make it?
Yeah, there was one guy from the sports commission that came,
Okay, good.
and Mark and I and those 2 guys are going to go on a tour next week of the park and wave, so they'll be up to date, and hopefully they'll attend the rest of the meetings.
Okay, good.
Should that be combined with we were trying to get this group together to talk to Mark? Should we combine those? I think Mark was talking about getting a van and driving, but anyway, if we could.
I think this group needs to be with Dave included, and
Yeah.
that can't be till August.
Okay, gotcha.
So, I need to start coordinating that. I'll talk to Mark about that next
Okay.
week.
Was Justin able to make it to the second meeting? Justin Thompson?
I don't think so.
Who's Justin Thompson?
He's the One Wheel French Broad Music Fest guy.
I don't think he's been to any meeting.
He hasn't.
I don't remember him at the one at the CBB.
a great update. All right, should we roll to new business?
Sure.
Okay, so a couple of things. Adrian and I were talking last week about whether or not we hit pause on July. I know, Chris, you serve on other boards, and you mentioned, I think maybe it was a task force meeting, you mentioned that July tends to be a month where your organizations take a hiatus, and you know how everyone's schedule is looking. I know it's time for summer vacation and family and.
Just in time.
Hi.
Hey, Rain.
Yeah, I don't, usually they're canceled because you don't get quorum. And even
right.
this week, with school being out and stuff like that, I feel like I've gotten so much accomplished because most of the meetings that I have that are standing each week have been canceled because
Nice.
people are on vacation.
Yeah, nice.
And I mean, it's a pretty light agenda this time around, so I don't know
It
if
is
we really
light.
have that much to discuss.
Well, I can tell you I'm going to be on a work trip the 12th of July, so I'm unable to attend.
Well, and now that we've identified the subcommittees, maybe July can be a time to kind of coordinate those. And
That's a great.
the task force is actually meeting on this meeting date in July anyway. So I would recommend that we cancel July for this
Group.
and focus on the subcommittees.
Okay.
Did we start at 3 or did we start at 4?
3.
Oh, well, that's why everybody's.
It was confusing because you're on task force too, and task force starts at 4.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, it's all good. And then the last point of business is the Greenway Riverside tour with Mark, which I have done, and it is very informative. It's really interesting. He does a great job. And so we thought we'd try to pick a date. I asked him, he said he's relatively open,
Oh,
just
you
come
did?
back to him.
Okay.
And we'll try to coordinate a 12-person passenger van through French Broad River Academy. So maybe sometime in August, or maybe our August meeting, like the
Ninth?
first, when is our,
It'd be the 9th.
it would be the 9th? It would be the 9th.
I'm sorry, is it Wednesday? Yeah, it's Wednesday, the 9th.
During the meeting time? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe we start here and we try to go through any discussion points as, swiftly as possible, and then by 3:30, 3:45, we load the van, we still try to wrap up by 5.
I think, yeah, because I think that meeting would just be about the subcommittees, because that's.
Right.
And maybe some project updates.
Right, but we'd probably get through that pretty quickly.
Yeah, right.
So I can ask Mark about if that works for everyone, August 9th.
Okay.
There is a possibility I'll be out of town,
Okay.
but right now it's only a possibility.
You could potentially Wayne could potentially get on the other tour though, right? If you're going with,
It's during the day.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like morning next week.
Next week?
If you can't, Mark doesn't mind doing it.
no,
again.
he really enjoys it. He does.
Did I make him mad yet the other day?
Not that I know of.
Okay, good.
Why would you make him mad?
Because I just felt like we were talking in circles for such a long time,
Oh, yeah.
right? I was like, we're not. Anyway. Yeah, okay,
I
good.
appreciate your input. If it,
Okay, yeah.
So there's nothing else on the agenda. We're pretty efficient here today. Does anyone else have anything they want to add or surface?
Yeah, can we talk me through the subcommittee work, knowing that the next month will be kind of geared towards the subcommittees specifically, and what is needed and what should I look forward to and what should I be prepared to and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's a great question, Eric. So, and jump in here, we haven't had formalized subcommittees for a bit of time now, but what we've done in the past is we get together outside of Woodfin Town Hall, or you can do it via Teams or, some format online, and talk about some ideas of how we could best support. So in your case, the volunteer group, my understanding is identifying needs and roles, and maybe starting to build some legs around like where we need the help, how we go about finding the help. I don't know if you have any updates at this point on AmeriCorps, or so that may be off the table at this point, you know, prioritizing where we need volunteers. I think we spoke, I don't know if it was last meeting or in the meeting before, I think the consensus here is that it would be a lot for us to manage the volunteers, but we could make recommendations on how to best support the town of Woodfin so that they can put in the infrastructure to build a volunteer program.
Right, yeah, it's recommendations to staff on what actions we should take, or ideas you have around volunteer, options or people. And I don't know, with the subcommittees last time, was there like a chairman, like a coordinator of each one, or did y'all just kind of communicate amongst yourselves and it worked that way?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like we did, but I mean, I worked
You
with these two. They
you
were
kind of
so
the reporter.
responsive, and
Yeah.
you would even nudge me, which was great if I was behind. But I would try to, I was responsible for summarizing, documenting the notes, and then Chris and Ann would chime in. They would edit or add if I missed anything, and then we would submit in advance of our monthly meeting.
I think our first step, Eric, would just be to get on an email with Gerald and say, you know, when can we meet in the next, ideally, like 4 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks, so we can kind of make a plan to, if there's anything to follow up on, to do that before August.
Okay. Well, not before July.
Well, our meeting would be ideally sometime within the next month,
Mhm.
so that if there is anything for us to do kind of on our own, like contacting people or working up some sort of a plan, that could be done before the August meeting. So kind of a meeting in early July would be good. Or any time, you know, if like next week works best for all of us, then there's no reason not to do that.
Okay.
It's kind of flexible.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm ready.
Yeah.
No, that's great, thank you.
I don't know if it would be helpful or not, but the notes from the last committees are on the Teams
Okay.
page, so you might want to, I could
Yeah,
point
that
some
makes
ideas from that.
sense.
And do you want those submitted, documentation of the meetings? Is that important? Or can the committees come in and verbalize where they're at?
Whatever works best for the committee, as long as it's
Okay.
shared with the group.
Anything else? Okay, well, I just call this meeting adjourned. All right, meeting complete.
Did it, good job.
Anyways, back to my computer.
So these are some of the new, I'm going to call them like placards.
Okay,
That
cool,
would be cool.
very cool.
I'm not quite as methodical as,
No, but a few.
Right, well,
my
you know,
he knows so much about something.
Or, you know, maybe it was said that this was a little too,
Right?
it's a little bit, just